All right, YouTube, I know I'm glowing like Jesus Christ right now, but it's too nice outside not to have the shades back. But here, I know I said before I wanted to cover a little bit less of the political material and go into other stuff. A lot of people thought that meant I was going to stop making political videos. That's not what I meant. What I meant is I'm going to reserve it for important topics rather than just slews of updates every day or two. Essentially, I'm getting into gardening. I actually just dumped a bunch of manure and compost and sphagnum moss and stuff in, plowed a couple of the beds up. They're looking really good. You can look forward, by the way, to a garden update probably next week, early spring sort of update. I expect, considering how warm it's been, we got rain for more than 24 hours and now it's sunny and warm. We're going to have some perennials coming up fairly soon. The chamomile already is, and the daffodils. But here is a political update, and I've got my Red Bull. Yes. Red Bull in the sun, one of the best feelings ever when you've just gotten done with gardening. Here's an update on the debate. Of course, the 12th GOP debate, which was last night. Predictions going forward, and also Ben Carson's endorsement, which has sort of stolen the show. My thoughts are this. The debate was gentle and kind and, as Trump put it, elegant. It didn't really move the race in any real direction when you think about it. In order for Rubio to stand a chance in Florida, he needed to hit Trump and knock him down a peg. He didn't really do that. He tried. He made some soaring speeches specifically directed to the fact that the audience was largely Rubio fans, and obviously they liked it, but did he win the debate? In my opinion, nobody did. Not enough real... There was more substance, I guess, than the last debate. It was better than the last debate, a little more boring maybe, but more civil. But nothing really of great importance was discussed. You saw Cruz and Trump go back and forth. You've seen Cruz now take up Trump's opposition to Common Core, which has gone over so well with the crowds, and he's now acting as though he was the one that thought of it. He did this before. He did this with the wall. He did this with the IRS. He did this with a slew of different things. The Cruz fans right now are getting very vicious. Somebody tried to rig the poll on Drudge last night, and Drudge announced that they had seen some funny business going on. I was there live when it happened. I saw the Reddit thread. Somebody had created a script in order to upvote Cruz, and it was all very dishonest. They did this primarily because Trump has a much larger online audience. A lot of his fans are younger. So yes, Trump tends to win the debate in the polling on Drudge and elsewhere, regardless of how well he actually does. However, this was obviously an attempt to rig it electronically. It wasn't like, hey, fellow Trump fans, go vote on this poll. Well, every candidate has that going on with their fans. It was more like, hey, let me create a script bot to do it for me. And they discovered it. And obviously Trump actually did win that poll. I believe they deleted some of the Cruz count because it went up. It was going up at about 100 votes per second. Yeah, and it was going up at a fairly linear rate. I think this is fairly good evidence of scripting. And then a person admitting that that's what they're doing, of course. That's how it rolls. As far as the debate goes, though, it doesn't really move anybody into a better or worse position than they were already in. The problem for Cruz and Rubio is Rubio had already tried the attack Trump strategy and it didn't work. That's why he got fucked in the first place. His going after Trump rather viciously at the last debate is why he collapsed. Cruz, of course, did not want to make this mistake, and for Kasich it would be very out of character because that's not what he's known for, so they avoided it too. Cruz and Trump went back and forth a little, but it was almost jovial. And in the absence, really, of those arguments going on, who was the loser? It was Rubio. It wasn't Ted Cruz, wasn't Kasich. I mean, Kasich's known for being quiet, so he doesn't really lose out. Cruz and Trump are already quite clearly ahead of the rest of the pack. They are the only people left that are even capable of getting enough delegates to go forward. You now have Rubio's communication director. Here's another update from literally not like 15 minutes ago. Apparently telling Rubio's fans in Ohio to vote for Kasich. What has been done is that the Bushes and Romneys are now attempting to draw Kasich, Rubio, and Cruz together. But Cruz is not an outsider. I hate to tell you this, folks, that like Ted Cruz, he's an Evangelo Con. He's taking the Goldman Sachs money. He's rubbing elbows with the Bushes. He's rubbing elbows with Mitt Romney. That's clear establishment. All they're trying to do at this point is to prevent Trump from getting enough delegates to secure the nomination. They know that he's going to be out in front and have the most delegates. What they're attempting to do now is to give the nomination probably to Ted Cruz on a ticket with Rubio as VP to grab up Kasich for some sort of slot, and they're hoping that that will beat Donald Trump. I would not be optimistic if I were one of their fans that that would work, because if they create such a unity ticket, Cruz, more than half of Cruz's support are people who want an outsider but don't yet realize he's not an outsider. Those people are going to flee at the end of the day once they realize, oh, he's actually getting money from the Bushes, he's getting advice from Romney, Romney's doing robocalls for him and so forth. It won't work, ultimately. He'll still be locked in the heartland because a lot of his support in the East will disappear. You see, of course, Cruz, while he has risen up by several points, has not achieved even 35% in most of these results, and that's despite the fact that Rubio has already fundamentally collapsed. So such a unity ticket probably wouldn't get him above the 50% that he would need. Kasich is going to be probably out after Ohio anyway. If they do stay in, if Kasich and Rubio stay in or form one ticket or something, I predict that they will probably lose anyway, because people will see. They will say, a lot of Cruz's fans hate Rubio. A lot of Rubio's fans hate Cruz almost as much as they hate Trump. So why would they support such a ticket? They'll just stay home. It won't work. We see Ben Carson has endorsed Donald Trump. This doesn't really help him nationally, but it does help him in certain regions. It's certainly going to help in North Carolina. It will help in Illinois. It will certainly help in Florida. Ohio, probably not. It doesn't really budge the race. Missouri, before Carson's announcement, I said Cruz had a pretty good chance of getting Missouri. I still say he has a better than 50-50 chance, but the chance is down a little bit now, specifically because on that rural, heavily Christian, Pentecostal, Bible Belt sort of side, Carson's really popular. Carson's popularity came from a slew of religious individuals, and I know some of them are now sort of disowning Ben Carson because, they hate Trump completely. They liked Ben Carson for other reasons. A lot of them, though, are saying, well, if the guy that I like the most is backing Trump, I'll do the same. A large proportion, probably more than half, will go to Trump. That'll put him above 40 nationally, certainly, because Carson was averaging between the mid-single digits and the low double digits in every state when he dropped out. A lot of those people form soft support bases, I would say specifically for Kasich and Cruz, not so much Rubio. Soft support bases, which means it's malleable support. They will support whoever they feel is best. They're not in it because they really like the person they're backing so much as they're in it because they find them the most tolerable. Ben Carson's endorsement will do for Trump what Chris Christie's endorsement did in some of the northeastern states. Going forward, my prediction remains basically the same. North Carolina, Trump will win it, and he'll win it handily. He may not get the 50% he makes to make it a winner-take-all. Otherwise, it's proportional, but he'll get the majority. He will win probably by double digits. It would be very strange if North Carolina didn't vote like the rest of Dixieland. Everything else in the Deep South has already made its decision except for North Carolina. It would be very strange if they defied the odds and said, well, we're going to ignore the rest of Dixieland. They don't want to be outcasts. They have that sort of Dixie pride. They'll vote for Trump. Illinois, it's an open primary. Trump is going to get hundreds of thousands of independents and Democrats voting for him in the Chicago area. I don't see any way that he can lose Illinois, really, unless every other candidate were to simultaneously launch an all-out blistering assault just in Illinois and use every penny that they've got. I wouldn't expect him to lose there. Even then, he might win by a few points. So he will win Illinois, almost certainly. That's winner-take-all. He gets almost 100 delegates. I expect him to win Florida. Like I said before, it's the tale of three states. The lower third of Florida from Miami on down, of course they're going to go for Rubio. That's sort of his stronghold. The northern edge of the state's already spoken for. It's just an extension of Dixieland. They like Trump a lot. He'll have a massive advantage there. The center of the state, you have an interplay between those sort of religious nativistic sentiments and the more urbanite sentiments of the Tampa-Orlando region. You also have some more of these Pentecostals like you would have in the heartland. They will break for Cruz. The nativists will break for Trump. Some of these state pride sort of people will break for Rubio. At the end of the day, it comes down to turnout. But Florida is not a closed primary. It's a semi-closed primary. There won't be any Democrats voting for Trump in Florida, but there will be independents doing that. Probably some number of thousands, a few tens of thousands. In Florida, in order to vote on the Republican ticket, it's like here with an open primary here in Vermont. I can go, I don't have to register for anyone. I can pick whichever ballot I want, unless you're registered. If you're an independent voter, you can literally file either ballot. It doesn't matter. You don't have to file any additional forms. It takes 5 minutes. In Florida, with a semi-closed system, if you're an independent, you can still vote for the Republicans, but you have to register before you do that. I have a feeling that because Trump's support peaked in the 30s very early on, a lot of people in some of these semi-closed states have already registered just to vote for Trump. They're probably still Trump supporters. It won't be as monumental an advantage as he gets in an open primary like Illinois, or you know, like New Hampshire was, or something like that, or South Carolina or Nevada. Nevada being an open caucus state. But at the same time, it will be enough of an advantage so that sort of the late-breaking voters go for Cruz general idea isn't really so much in play. Missouri, like I said, still a slight advantage for Cruz, less now that Ben Carson has jumped on board with Trump. And potentially, here's the other thing, Trump realizes he's the front runner. He realizes he has a massive systemic advantage. He also realizes he has a major advantage in the sense that his only strong opponent, which is Cruz, most of his support, while high nationally, comparative almost to Trump's, is locked in the heartland. That is, that a lot of Cruz's support is coming from these flyover states that total have a couple hundred delegates. Much of Trump's strongest support is coming on the East Coast, in states like New York, 200 delegates, I believe. California on the West Coast, again, same story. Those two states alone roughly double what Trump already has and would put him at 2/3 of the total he needs. He's got almost no competition in these states because the only other urbanite candidate who could have competed with him has already collapsed, is in grave danger of losing his home state, Florida, and that's Marco Rubio. Kasich has a good deal of regional support in the Rust Belt, but he already lost Michigan. He didn't get Minnesota. That was a Rubio state, and Rubio will be gone soon. Indiana, again, I think Trump's 15 points ahead there. Wisconsin, I think it's about the same story. Some of these other states, Pennsylvania, certainly Trump has a massive advantage there. Because Trump has some union support, he's able to supplant Kasich in all of the states other than Ohio in this region. So because the only strong contender with high popularity is locked largely in the Bible Belt, and because the Deep South has largely already cast their votes and voted overwhelmingly for Trump, there is no way forward for Ted Cruz. The only thing that Ted Cruz can do is hope to deny winner-take-all status from some of these otherwise proportional states going forward to deny Trump the absolute total that he needs. Will he be successful in doing this? I don't know. But like I said, my caution for all the Bushes and Romneys of the party is you're going to lose the election anyway at this point if you do that. If you try to form a Cruz-Rubio unity ticket, they might fail, number one, because people will see that as a sign the establishment has solidified and has accepted Ted Cruz, and he loses all of his outsider support, which is about 75% of the GOP right now, plus plenty of independent votes. And even if they were successful, all that independent support, what do you think Trump's going to do? He's going to run independent. He's going to assume, he's going to say, well, you're in breach of your contract with me, so I'm no longer beholden to back the person you've nominated, because quite clearly they used dirty tricks to win. My supporters will continue to back me. He'll be the next Ross Perot. He won't give the election, by the way, to the Democrats. He might win the election for himself. He's got a large enough coalition, a a rather large proportion of the Republicans, a lot of independent support, some supportees, some hundreds of thousands of Democrats. That's a coalition you could theoretically win on an independent platform with. It would be more difficult. He would have to certainly self-fund. He might have to buddy-buddy with some third parties or something like that, or he might have to attract, sort of the Bernie Sanders end of the Democrats and the Ron Paul fans of the Republican Party to do it. But he could face, it would be a serious threat to the status quo. And whether he wins or loses, even if he doesn't win a single state, it would certainly be the largest showing since Teddy Roosevelt for any third-party candidate or independent candidate. So, I mean, it would throw everything into turmoil. It wouldn't even matter who wins, by the way. Again, from the outside looking in as a nonpartisan, Hillary Clinton and people like Cruz and Rubio are basically the same thing. Why would I worry who wins at that point? I would be more likely to jump ship and vote for Trump if he was running as an independent, because then I would know for certain, well, the establishment really does hate him. It's not just an act. It's not just a strategy. It's an actual real visceral hate. So he's obviously doing something right because he's pissed off both of the two parties at once. But yes, going forward, I believe that other than this vague possibility that the RNC might be really, really, really dumb and really, really bought off and corrupt and attempt a Cruz-Rubio unity ticket, I predict that Trump will win 3 of the states that are up, possibly 4. Missouri, of course, is still up in the air. I don't think he has much of a shot in Ohio. I think they'll rally around Kasich at the end of the day, and Kasich will get Ohio, which puts him, I believe, slightly ahead of Rubio, oddly enough, in delegates. I believe he'll have like maybe 5 or 10 more if he wins his own home state winner-take-all style. But Trump will be several hundred delegates ahead of Cruz at the end of the night, especially if he wins Missouri. Then Cruz doesn't really get anything. He'll get a handful, he'll get a few dozen from North Carolina, where I expect him to be in second place. Other than that, what does he get? He gets nothing. If Trump does win Missouri, he has effectively locked Cruz completely into the heartland. He will win the rest of the eastern states without much competition. He will have the absolute delegate total that he needs. He won't have to worry about a brokered convention. At that point, it becomes impossible for Cruz and Rubio to compete because Rubio has no way forward. It will look like an acceptance of the establishment by Cruz if he takes Rubio on. And he himself has already stated, for the record, and people will remember this, that he opposes a brokered convention. But that would be the only way left that he could win. Ted Cruz cannot compete in a state like Maryland. I mean, look at what happened in Hawaii, where everyone expected Rubio to win. Trump absorbed that support. Trump is already absorbing a lot of the suburban support that Rubio had in the East, outside of the areas where Kasich is more popular. Place like New York, place like Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Maryland, Delaware, on down through West Virginia, over into Indiana, up into Wisconsin, in this Indiana, certainly down in Florida, and the West Coast. If he wins all of those states, most of which are winner take all, then he's got he'll have around 1,300 delegates. He doesn't need to win any of the heartland states. Ted Cruz can win all of those, and he'll be down around 600 delegates total, or a little bit less. Honestly, though, at that point, if Cruz does take Rubio on, it will alienate a lot of these religious evangelicals. Now, in the next couple of days, we have to wait and see if Ben Carson's endorsement has as big an impact as I believe it may. If it does, then I'd be ready to say, well, Trump may very well win Missouri. In fact, he now has a chance in Ohio. If he wins all 5, I mean, the election's over, basically. He's the next president of the United States. If Trump does become the nominee, he's going to crush Hillary Clinton. A lot of people say, well, the polls show Hillary 10 points ahead. That's going to change, folks. Ronald Reagan, 1980, he was trailing Jimmy Carter severely up until a few months before the election actually took place, up until late that summer. Then all of a sudden he shot ahead because people realized how fucked up Jimmy Carter was and how Ronald Reagan wasn't an uber-scary war hawk who just wanted to dump coal into the air. And that's what people will realize about Trump at that point. They'll realize he's just a New York tycoon. He's not really far right. I mean, yeah, he leans right on taxes and guns and some of these other issues, but ultimately he's a fairly sane, balanced individual who is backed now by sane, balanced other people. Chris Christie was actually fairly well liked by the Democratic Party. Now, that didn't make him a darling with the RNC, but he was generally liked by them. They didn't have a problem with him. He was for some gun control. He was a high tax governor for the most part. Ben Carson, other than his religious views, I guess, I've seen relatively little about how scary Ben Carson supposedly was from the Democratic Party. By the way, Piano Lady, now that Ben Carson has officially dropped out and endorsed another candidate, you lose. I told you that that was what would happen. You kept insisting it would be a Ben Carson presidency. I told you there was no chance. People should heed what I say because I study this from a non-biased perspective. If you listen to Fox News talk about which Republican's going to win, you think they're giving you a non-biased opinion? If you listen to MSNBC and what they say about Sanders and Hillary, is it non-biased? Of course not. They get paid to be biased. They get kickbacks from candidates. These candidates pay for political ads on their networks. You know, if a candidate buys $5 million worth of ads on Fox, do you think that Fox is going to devote a 2-hour segment to how bad that candidate is? Generally not going to happen. I believe it's mostly Rubio ads on Fox that you see, by the way. But yeah, some predictions and analysis. The debate moved nothing. If anything, it helped Trump by making him look more stable and human up on stage. You know, his long-term support base, his hardened support, doesn't care if he insults others and does the brawler thing, because he's already done that. They're already hardened supporters. They're not going to abandon him unless he strokes out on stage. He's now going after the soft support that Rubio is leaving behind. And Ted Cruz is rubbing elbows with the Bushes. That is not good for him. It takes away from his outsider status. The evangelicals are still abandoning him. The Baptists already have. Time will tell whether Ben Carson can move the needle a little bit in the heartland. If that were to happen, if Ben Carson brought enough religious individuals to Trump in the areas that he was doing well in, and he was doing well in a place like Iowa, yeah, he comes in 5th, but he certainly has a pulse there. If he can bring that 5 to 10% over to Trump in any of these races, Trump could very well win Missouri. He could stand a chance, certainly, in a place like Montana. Certainly the Southwest, New Mexico and Arizona, and that would be the exception. I expect that Colorado and Arizona will go for Donald Trump. New Mexico, I'm kind of on the fence there. I would say he has a slight advantage. The rest of these heartland states, though, it would be very difficult for anyone other than Cruz to win them because they're entirely driven by religion, as opposed to the states east of the Mississippi, where Rubio had a lot of support originally. You saw, even in the Deep South, he was averaging 20, 25, sometimes 30 in many of these states, in a place like Alabama. Now he's collapsed. That's a problem for him in Florida. I don't think that he can do it. You may see if Rubio's communications director really has said to Rubio fans in Ohio, vote for Kasich, you would expect that the natural give and take would be Kasich says, my fans in Florida should vote for Rubio. This will look like collusion. People will smell a rat, or a ratto, as it may be. At the end of the day, a lot of people will heed the advice. Some will ignore it. Some will actually do the opposite and jump ship, and they'll vote for Trump. But yeah, I see Trump with 3 states, but now he has, depending on the way the polls go in the next few days, we need more polling out of Missouri. Depending on what those polls, if any, are taken, say, he could win a 4th state. I don't think he will win Ohio. I think Kasich is too popular there. And Kasich is still slowly growing his support, whereas Rubio has collapsed. He's not growing his. He's on the decline. He's done. Rubio, if he's smart, will drop out before Florida. At this point, I doubt that he will, even if his communications director is saying this about Ohio. I think he's sticking in just to provide a stumbling block to Trump as much as he can. He is doomed. He will fail in this venture, but that's what he's trying to do. And he knows the second Rubio leaves, most of his supporters hate Ted Cruz. Some of them will go to Trump, some of them will go to Kasich. Most of them will not go to a person like Cruz. Rubio doesn't really have much support left in the rural heartland anyway. Those are the only states Cruz is competitive in. So just a little bit of analysis. But yeah, I'll be making some gardening videos because it's nice and warm. It's sunny. Just rained for 24 hours, putting some soil into the garden. I still got to get another big-ass load of compost and manure mix. Sphagnum moss and so forth. I want to get a bag of the organic fertilizer, sort of the crumbly mineral stuff. I prefer using that to chemical fertilizers, even if it's a little bit less effective. You just sort of sprinkle it and mulch it in to that nice new soil, and things will grow massive. You won't have a problem with that. But this year I'm going all out to make the garden a lot more decorative than it has been. I want to do a cottage-style garden this year to some extent, because I think that looks the best. That and Gothic-style gardens are the best kinds. And there'll be other videos, more occultism. Yes, I will do the rest of the trip reports. It's only a matter of time. And various other stuff. There will be a live stream March 15th. For those who wondered when it would start, probably 7:30 to 8 o'clock-ish, sometime around there. But keep in mind, still, I've got partner stuff to do as well, so that takes up some of my time. Not a huge amount, but if it's between that and make a video, I'm going to choose partner over video making. It's not an imposition, obviously, onto my fans on YouTube, because I can make videos in the middle of the night if I want to. I can make videos as soon as I get up. I'll just look like shit while doing it. And definitely I'd need some of this. If I'm making a video before noon, it's going to be a Red Bull video. And it's going to be a Red Bull video either way. But yeah, that's about all. Peace out.